Today, I'm going to share with you the great and grave burden that's on the heart of one of our staff members here at Bible Tracts Incorporated. Now, he's a staff member that you don't hear a lot about. His name is Todd Lofbaum. I know I've mentioned him on the program many a time, but today I'm going to share with you something that he wrote not too long ago. We actually included it in our latest newsletter that we just sent out. Many of you may have received it. I hope you read all the way to the end. It was on page number 14. I'm going to read it, but also expound a little bit, give you a little context that maybe isn't even included. But what I'd like you to do is this, to consider the fact that almost 1% of all human beings in the United States of America are currently incarcerated. A significant portion of our workforce, of the moms, of the dads, of the brothers, sisters, grandmas, grandpas, in the good old US of A, are behind bars. Now, we could talk about the spiritual darkness that leads to something like that. We could talk about the judicial system. We could talk about the political landscape. But what I'd like to talk about is the fact that the only hope for a prisoner, whether they are inside prison or outside, whether they are prisoners spiritually or even spiritually and physically, the only hope is Jesus Christ. And let me read for you, let me share with you what Todd Lofbaum shares with us. In January of 2020, feels like so long ago, doesn't it? January of 2020, he says, less than 2 short years ago, our Bible Tracts Incorporated team formally began a concentrated effort to reach the incarcerated through a prison ministry. You say, hold up a second, and I'll insert here parenthetically. You say, hold up a second. That doesn't sound like what a gospel tract ministry is supposed to be doing. Friend, can I say this? That is a dense response. People need the Lord everywhere. And gospel tract ministries, there's few things better for us to get involved with than to put gospel tracts into prison. Let me give you some context here. Many inmates, Todd continues on, had begun writing us with orders for tracts to pass out to their fellow prisoners. This kind of began organically. The Lord moved on our hearts to start corresponding with these men and women, offering them a discipleship study course, along with just an encouraging word. And let me back out again and say this. Oftentimes, I've seen Todd sitting at a desk and typing out really a heartfelt letter to some of these people. He corresponds with them. He doesn't just send them a form letter. He sent me and showed me the letters, the paper and the pencil, the ink, as they write there and talk about their hurts, talk about the emotional toil, talk about their cellmates, and ask for prayer for specific things. And Todd responds back. He doesn't just send them all the same letter. He responds back and corresponds with them. Thus began, he continues on, the prison ministry arm of BTI. Now, almost 2 years later, we have been able to reach out to over 170 inmates with at least 25 salvations. Wrap your mind around that ratio. 170 prisoners, some of which were already saved, some of which had already come to Christ. But of those 170, 25 plus salvations. He says, I keep track of each letter written and the date it was sent to follow up with the inmates I have not heard from in a while. Think about the thought that goes into this. He has an Excel sheet on his computer with all that includes and notates all of the correspondence that he has with each of these men and women. And think about the fact, the care that it takes to go back and say, I haven't heard from this person in a couple of months. I need to send them a note. He continues on. One day, while searching for a man's address, I was able to find an avenue to thousands of addresses of men and women in prison who are specifically looking for correspondence from the outside world. Think about that, being behind bars, the same people, the same 4 walls, the same iron bars, just asking for somebody to help. And he found this really by the providence of God. He said, we decided to send letters with gospel tracts enclosed, asking these inmates if they knew for sure they were going to heaven when they died. with most prison ministries unable to go into prisons right now because of current world events. And I'd like you to realize here that some prisons may never again fully open to outside preachers ever again. This may be one of the few ways that we can actually spiritually impact lost people that are incarcerated. Todd said, this open door was an answer to prayer. Now, we like to, when possible, try a little before we try a lot, but I'm also a big fan of trying a lot before you try a lot. I like to go for the gusto. Go big or go home, they say, right? Well, we sent out 140 of those letters to those inmates that were looking for some outside communication. And so far, in a very short period of time, we've heard back from 10 of those inmates, so about 7% or so have responded, with 3 salvations. Can you believe that? 140 letters, and already about 2% of them have responded back letting us know they accepted Christ. One man, get this now, I want you to wrap your mind around this. One man said he was an agnostic and was not interested in any religious material for himself, but he would be glad to hand out tracts to other men. He did say he would like a friend, and as we continue to correspond, he continues to pass out tracts for us. Imagine that. I want to drive this point home. A man who proclaims, who knows that he is unsaved according to the Bible, and he's completely, at least according to his own testimony, uninterested in salvation, and he is being used by God to reach his fellow inmates. And we as Christians, with the bounty of God's Word, with Jesus Christ an integral part of our life, sometimes we can't be bothered to tell lost people about Christ. And this lost man is doing it on our behalf. That's convicting for me. Another man was just so very thankful that someone out there cared for his soul enough to write and tell him about the Lord. Shortly, we will be sending out, Todd tells us, shortly we will be sending out another round of these letters. People ask all the time what they can do to help. Let me give you something practical. It costs $1 to send this note, one of these personalized notes, along with some gospel tracts to a lost soul in prison. Any donation towards this would be a help and a grand blessing. I would love to bring another report in our upcoming newsletter and a future radio broadcast about the hundreds or even thousands of letters that we could send simply because of your giving. Who knows how many more might be saved through this effort? I mean, imagine that, 2% return. Now, we can't guarantee what the return will be in the future, but think about that. If $1,000 were given, and we use your money. When you notate and you designate your money, we use it that way. We don't take matters into our own hands. If someone gave $1,000 and we've sent out 1,000 of these notes, my math tells me that we could see 20 people come to Christ as a result. How amazing would that be? We'd also like to extend an offer as well, Todd says, to anyone who may have a family member or friend currently incarcerated. We would be glad to send them a letter of hope and encouragement. Would you feel free to contact us? I'm going to give you an email address that you can send that kind of information to. If you have a niece, a nephew, a brother, a sister. You know, Todd told me this, that sometimes it's hardest for family members to help their own family members because they've been so hurt, so injured. There may even be seeds of bitterness tucked down deep, and it's hard, but maybe you'd allow us to help correspond as well. Here's an email address. You can send it, any correspondence like that, to Todd, Todd, at BibleTractsInc.org, or just go ahead and call this phone number, 309-828-6888. 309-828-6888. The announcer at the conclusion of the program will tell you more about how you can contact us. Just ask for Todd. And if you'd like to give towards this work, I mentioned that. If you'd like to give towards this work, you can do that right now. You can visit BibleTractsInc.org. That's our website, and just use the Donate tab. Allocate your gift towards prison ministry, and we will use 100% of those funds towards this effort. You'll pay for the stamps. You'll pay for the envelopes. You'll pay for the letter that goes inside the paper and the ink. And I misspoke, and I said pray. I will ask you as well, would you pray for this effort? God only knows how many hurting souls there are out there just looking, just hoping, just praying for someone to throw out a lifeline. I remember Todd telling me about a prisoner. This wasn't in his notes here, but I remember him telling me about a man who said by his own testimony, I've sent notes, I've sent letters to literally dozens of ministries. And Todd, you were the first one to contact me back. That saddens me, but it also encourages me. Our ministry wants to do something. If you'd like to partner with us, BibleTractsInc.org, and use that donate tab, any size gift. I told you, one note costs $1. You say, hey, that's all I can do. Awesome. We'll send a note in your name. We'll send 5 for $5. You want to do more than that? As God leads you, feel free. But can I tell you, we need to take advantage of people's soft hearts now. God has opened a marvelous door of opportunity. They have open ears. They have soft hearts. Let's give them the gospel while there is still time. Let me encourage you. Would you consider sharing a testimony of God's goodness? I'm not just talking about with us, but would you look back on what God has done in your life and share it with someone around you? Too often, we do a phenomenal job of sharing the hurts and the pains and the heartaches and all of those things, and we need to bear one another's burdens, as the Bible tells us. But when was the last time you said, hey, I just want to call and say, God's been good to me. Let me share you a blessing. God recently allowed a massive breakthrough to happen at Bible Tracts Incorporated. We'll talk about that in future weeks. That's not the focus of today. But I can tell you, there were so many people I called in the 24 hours after it happened. And I said, hey, just want to share with you what God did for us. Hey, just want to tell you how God blessed our ministry. Just want to tell you, it's not about me. It's not about Austin. It's not about Todd. It's not about our work. It's about the Word of God. It's about what God can do. Just want to share with you a blessing. When was the last time you shared a blessing? I'd love to hear a blessing of yours. Would you like to share that with me? Would you mind? Maybe we'll include it in a radio broadcast in the future. If you would, text me. If it's private, we'll keep it private, but I'd like to hear about it. Would you text me at this phone number? I'll give it to you one time slowly. 309-316-7240. That was a little fast. Let me give it to you one more time. 309-316-7240. I'd like to ask you to have a great day for His glory. Tomorrow on the broadcast, we're going to share some testimonies of God's goodness. God bless.
Thank you for joining us today for Bible Tract Echoes, a ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. If you would like to receive a free sample packet of all of our tracts, you can contact us by calling 309-828-6888. That's 309-828-6888. Our mailing address is P.O. Box 188, Bloomington, Illinois, 61702. A faster way to contact us is to go to our website at BibleTractsInc.org. That's BibleTractsInc.org. There you will find more information about our ministry and details on how you can support Bible Tracts Incorporated. Thanks for listening, and may the Lord richly bless you as you serve Him.